So the question that I've been wondering for all these years is, living a life of okayness or mediocrity where you don't have to have some tragedy happen, can you wake up? And this book for me is a series of tools that allows us to do that. On page 24, he says beautifully, you always have the choice of learning from spiritual unfoldment or of learning by painful experience. And it is your own fault if you make the latter choice. I mean, that's a pretty direct statement. You always have the choice of learning from spiritual unfoldment or of learning by painful experience. And it is your own fault if you make the latter choice. And I know that all of us at times have learned by painful experience. It's entrained in us as humans that is one of the ways that we grow. But at a certain level of development, you start to see that there's a different way. And that's what I'm getting from this book. This is what I've gotten, is that practice of always turning towards the spiritual unfoldment first and foremost, and having the rest of it be driven by that energy. But it's a direct line, right? Something to make you think. Like, how much am I learning by pain and suffering? And how much am I literally connected to that greater part of myself? On page 24, again, he says, if people would turn to God and acquire something of this understanding, while their health is still good, they would never be sick at all. Talks a lot about sickness and disease in the book, which a lot of great spiritual texts do, because it's one of the humbling things when you hear something like this. Say, well, if somebody gets sick, is that really their fault? If you're saying that everything's in the mind, is that sickness in their mind? Something to ponder. He clearly states here that while healthy, while vibrant, while living, turning your attention to God so that way you can prevent situations from happening. This is a remedy. A lot of people will turn spiritual or religious when big problems happen, when they've gotten beaten down in some way in life, and now they've had some awakening. And for me, I've never wanted to go that path because I haven't wanted to fall all the way down to have some spiritual awakening. So the question that I've been wondering for all these years is, living a life of okayness or mediocrity where you don't have to have some tragedy happen, can you wake up? And this book for me is a series of tools that allows us to do that. How many times do we have to watch YouTube, somebody who's had some travesty and then they've had this big life transformation, right? And we're so moved by that. We're so moved by that story of transformation. God willing, most of us won't have to go through that level of pain and suffering to reach some higher level of awareness. We just have to push ourselves to want that, which is why you're here. On page 25, he goes on to say that at the same time, we must be careful to use present resources well and not accumulate riches selfishly by recognizing that God is the owner. The command of money involves a responsibility which you cannot evade. You must spend it wisely or take the consequences. And this is in reference to where Jesus addresses the issue of money. He addresses very direct issues throughout the Sermon on the Mount. It's about money. It's about your welfare. It's about your physical health. Yes, this is about spiritual unfolding, but it's really a blueprint for actually how to live your life. And very clearly here, there's a strong edict around not hoarding resources, which we all know. And the path by doing that is by recognizing that none of it is really ours. None of this is really ours. We will leave these physical bodies and we will go off into some other experience, and we're not taking any of it with us. I often run an experiment in my groups where I have people think about the names of their great, 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 great grandparents. That's four greats ago. And I would love you to think, if you know the names of any of your great, great, great grandparents, the chances are, nope, you have no idea who they are. But interestingly, you have 64 great, 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 great grandparents. They're all responsible for you being here in this body, for having this life. If one of them wasn't alive, you wouldn't be here. Yet we don't know the names of them. And they lived within the last 200 years. And I'll also tell you this, that these people had the same struggles, the same hopes, the same dreams, the same ups and downs, the same money things as you do, as I do. The same health issues, the same everything, the same ambitions. They have the same thing that we do. And yet they're gone, dust in the wind. And we need to embody that awareness now while we're living. We have a short period of time to be in this identity, and we might as well go for it. Make the most of it. Have all this energy used up so that when we do pass, we do so gracefully and with joy because we've been used up. All our energy has been used up. That's an intention to shoot for, right? How can we do that better? So yeah, he talks about money. And then he goes into blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. You've all heard of this one before. And what he says, Emmet Fox says about this particular beatitude, I love this. I'm going to read it to you. He says, the secret of dominion, the secret of overcoming every kind of difficulty, that this statement is literally the key of life. It is the Jesus Christ message reduced to a single sentence. The gnomic saying is actually the philosopher's stone, the alchemist that turns the base metal of limitation in trouble into the gold of comfort and true harmony. I mean, how gorgeous is that, right? The alchemist that turns the base metal of limitation in trouble into the gold of comfort and true harmony. Like, who wants a piece of that? And he's saying that this line that we've all heard before, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth, is that, the philosopher's stone of life, of living. It's Christ's message in one 10-word sentence. Then he says that the statement itself is divine metaphysics that clearly states all causation is mental, and that your body and your affairs and your home and your business and all your experience are but the manifestation of your own mental states. And in this case, what is he talking about? He's talking about the mental state of meekness, which if you're like me, you think of that word, it doesn't sound so great. It sounds a little weak. But it's that state, the state of meekness, for they shall inherit the earth. Inherit the earth signifies live to your greatest purpose, live your highest potentials. That's the ultimate goal of this thing. And the meek are the ones that are going to be able to do that. So in terms of the mental attitude of meekness, he defines it. Okay, so what Emmet says about this quality is that it's a combination of open-minded faith in God and the realization that the will of God for us is always something joyous, interesting, and vital, and much better than anything we can think of for ourselves. And I just love that when we connect with the divine energy and the will of God, that actually the vision that it has for us is way beyond what we can imagine for ourselves, which goes back right to the reality that we are so limited in the ways that we see ourselves. That little I, that little identity that we run around in is really limited. But when we connect with this divine nature, it expands. And how inspiring and motivating is it to think that the possibilities, the potentials for us is so much bigger than we can even think for ourselves. It just really brings a smile to my face. It makes me want to get up in the morning and do stuff and experience this life. So meekness, it's a different way of looking at that word. Open-minded, trusting that there's a joyous expression, meaning for us. He also continues to state that meekness includes, quote, a perfect willingness to allow the will of God to come about in whatever way divine wisdom considers to be best, rather than in some particular way that we have chosen for ourselves. And this sentence is just so powerful because a lot of us, we can try so hard, right? We're trying so hard. And it's actually in the letting go of that trying, into the surrender, into this divine will, that we tap into that universal flow and things become just so much easier. And the way that we think this divine wisdom is going to come in is rarely the way that it does. If you think back in your own life to some of the things that have been the most magical or the most impactful, a lot of them were planned. They happened. And then the things that we plan and work so hard towards often don't turn out the way that we want, or maybe we don't feel as good as we thought we would. A lot of the stuff that I've been battling in my coaching programs is the notion of mediocrity, of people that follow the blueprint of their lives. They go to school, they get the good job, they make money, they have a family. And then they come into a call with me and they're like, this is not what I thought it was going to be. I'm just not as happy as I thought. I followed this whole plan. Here I am. Everything's okay. People think my life is okay, but I'm not happy. What do I do with that? So this willingness to allow the will of God to flow through you often takes you in unexpected places. And I would say that one of the things we want to do with this wisdom is to honor the unexpected,